Airports hum with energy, a swirling mix of hopes, nerves, and exhaustion. On any given day, you'll witness family reunions, stressful business trips, and scrambles to catch a connecting flight. But this story goes beyond typical airport chaos. One fateful evening at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, a weary black traveler found himself blocked at the gate, singled out by a gate agent who deemed him a threat. It wasn't just an overbooked flight or a minor delay. By the time the police were called, a chain of events was unleashed that would change lives, reveal stunning secrets, and demand a painful reckoning. The air was thick with summer humidity in Atlanta, Georgia, that afternoon. Outside Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta International Airport cars inched forward in endless lines, horns blaring in frustration. Inside the sprawling concourse, thousands of travelers hurried through the corridors like tiny puzzle pieces, trying to slot themselves into the right place at the right time. Among them was Marcus Walker, a tall black man in his late 30s, sweat beading at his temples. He had flown in from a business trip in Chicago, an exhausting 3-day conference where he had delivered multiple presentations. The pressure on him had been enormous. His performance would decide if his small but innovative startup would secure a lucrative contract. While he was used to high stakes, the stress had taken its toll. Dragging a sleek carry-on behind him, Marcus made his way to the check-in counter for his connecting flight. The airport's bustle was a symphony of announcements, echoing overhead families trying to corral children, and impatient travelers tapping their feet in serpentine lines. Marcus had an economy ticket, but his flight was slightly overbooked. Normally, that wouldn't concern him. He was always gracious about flight changes. Yet he felt an uneasy knot in his stomach, as though some grand cosmic force was about to put him to the test. He fiddled with the phone in his pocket. The battery was nearly dead. He had forgotten his charger in the Chicago conference room. His sister had left him a voicemail earlier, but he hadn't had the chance to listen to it. She was traveling for her job, some high-level negotiations in Europe, and he had no idea if she was back yet. He loved her more than life itself, but for the last year, they had rarely managed more than a few texts and calls, each two caught up in their own careers. Marcus glanced at his watch. His flight was set to depart in a little over an hour. It would be tight. He still needed to get through security and to his gate in the far corner of the concourse. He took a deep breath and tried to quell the building anxiety that always accompanied the possibility of missing a flight. Right then, he had no idea he was on the brink of an even bigger confrontation, one that would make missing his flight seem trivial. Meanwhile, at gate A32, Cheryl Nash was at her station, pecking furiously at her keyboard. Her job as a gate agent for the fictional airline Skylux had her on edge almost every day. The airline had some of the strictest on-time departure metrics in the industry, and a backlog of full flights left her no wiggle room. She had strict instructions from her supervisor: do not delay the aircraft for anyone. Overbooking was at a peak because the summer season was in full swing, and Skylux had offered multiple promotional fares. Cheryl was running on little sleep courtesy of her newborn at home. She also faced a mortgage she could barely pay. The overhead to her predicament weighed heavily on her psyche. The slender commission from seat upgrades was her lifeline, but the pressure turned her cordial smile into something more mechanical than genuine. Her colleagues gave her a wide berth. They noticed her shorter fuse and the tension she exuded. As she looked out at the waiting area, she grimaced. There were easily 20 passengers on standby. Some clutched crumpled tickets, others stared at their phones, refreshing gate updates. A wave of dread washed over Cheryl as she realized she might be forced to make tough choices. She could already imagine the arguments and complaints that lay ahead if she needed to bump someone off the flight. Her eyes swept the crowd. She saw an elderly couple, a mother with two fidgety toddlers, a man who had medical equipment, and several business travelers with the hallmark fatigued look. She disliked conflict, but she also had zero patience left for rowdy or pushy passengers. That was precisely when fate would drop a situation in her lap that would define her day and cost her much more than she realized. After navigating security, where he had been randomly selected for an extensive pat-down, as often happened, Marcus finally reached Gate A32. He was nearly out of breath from speed walking, but he tried to keep his demeanor calm. He spotted the overhead screen, Skylux Flight 729 Atlanta to San Francisco, boarding in 15 minutes. Relief welled up in him. He was not late. Marcus got into line behind a handful of travelers. The mother, wrangling her toddlers in front of him, smelled of baby lotion and desperation, doing her best to stop her children from wailing. Marcus offered a sympathetic smile, but said nothing. His mind spun with everything he needed to do back home. Finalize the sales pitch deck, pay a stack of bills, maybe buy groceries, and hopefully get some decent sleep. When it was his turn at the gate counter, he approached Cheryl. He saw the lines of exhaustion etched on her face. He offered a polite nod, sliding his boarding pass across the counter. "Hi there," he said, injecting as much warmth as he could into his voice. "Marcus Walker, Flight 729 to San Francisco. I have an economy seat, but I might be one of those overbooked tickets. Just wanted to see if there were any updates. If needed, I can volunteer." To Cheryl cut him off in a curt tone. "Sir, I need to see your ID." Marcus quickly fished out his ID, handing it over. Cheryl typed something on her keyboard, eyes scanning the flight manifest. Her forehead creased. "It looks like you purchased a standard economy seat, but we are indeed overbooked. A couple of seats still haven't been checked in, so I can't confirm you yet. Please wait in the seating area. You'll know shortly if you get on." Marcus nodded, though inside he felt the churn of nerves. "Understood. I'll just wait right over there." Cheryl didn't respond. Not even a perfunctory smile. She simply handed back his ID and boarding pass. Marcus took a seat, phone in hand. The battery icon flashed red. He flicked through a few messages, scanning missed calls. One was from his sister Sarah, another from a friend in Chicago. The phone beeped, a warning that it was about to shut down. He sighed. He hoped he wouldn't need it. If there was an emergency, he could always call from a payphone, if any still existed in the world. He tried to remain calm. After all, flights get overbooked frequently. Maybe he would catch a break. If not, there was always a chance for the next one. But as the minutes ticked by and the tension in the waiting area grew, it was clear this was no ordinary overbooked situation. People in the seats around him started whispering in frustration, some complaining that they had purchased tickets months ago, only to be told there was no guarantee of boarding. Marcus overheard every word, his stomach sinking. The mother, with the two toddlers, was praying they wouldn't be bumped. The elderly couple needed to get home for a medical appointment. Everyone had a reason they absolutely needed to be on that plane. When boarding commenced, first-class travelers and premium members were invited first. Then came families with small children, followed by active military members. Marcus watched as the line moved, his heart thudding. He imagined how humiliating it would be to stand up eagerly, only to be told there was no seat for him. Finally, general boarding started. Everyone with confirmed seats swarmed the gate. Marcus approached with cautious optimism. Cheryl glanced at him, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. She scanned his boarding pass. An error beeped. She tried again. The beep repeated like an alarm. Cheryl's lips curled into a stressed scowl. Passengers behind Marcus started to stir, craning necks, exhaling irritably. "Sir," she said, "I need you to step aside. Your ticket isn't valid for boarding." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "What do you mean invalid? I booked the ticket weeks ago. Is it just that the flight is overbooked?" A subtle tremor of tension vibrated through Cheryl's voice. "Yes, the flight is overbooked, and your seat is already occupied by another passenger. Please step aside. I'll let you know what we can do." Marcus turned his head slightly. "I see. Well, can I volunteer to take a later flight? Or maybe get a seat upgrade if it's available?" He tried to be polite, but he could sense a wave of panic rising in him. He really didn't want to spend the night in an airport lounge. Cheryl let out a sigh, exasperated. Her tone sharpened. "Sir, I don't have the authority to upgrade you, and we are fully booked. If someone else doesn't show, you can board. Otherwise, you'll have to go on the standby list for the next flight at 8:40 p.m. tomorrow." An entire day lost. That would sabotage his schedule, cost him an important client meeting, and derail his life in ways he couldn't afford. Marcus let out a tight sigh. "Ma'am, is there any way to—" She was done with him. "Sir, please stand back. I have other passengers to assist." Her tone was borderline rude, but she was also working rapidly under stressful conditions. Marcus nodded, feeling stung by the abruptness. He stepped away, trying to figure out his next move. Another day in Atlanta would be a headache. He'd have to book a hotel on his dime. As an entrepreneur with a tight budget that hurt, the frustration began to gnaw at him, but he kept telling himself to remain calm. Then it happened. A tall white man in an expensive suit strolled up to the counter with no sign of apology for cutting the line. He produced a gold membership card and said to Cheryl, "I missed my earlier flight. Is there any way you can squeeze me onto this one? I'll pay whatever for an upgrade." Cheryl's demeanor shifted instantly. She forced a sweet smile, eyes lighting up. "Of course, sir. Let me see what I can do." She typed vigorously. Within minutes, she looked up and nodded with a satisfied grin. "We do have an opening in first class. It's yours if you want it." Marcus watched as the man handed over a credit card. The beep that followed was an approving one. A boarding pass slid out of the machine, handed to the man with a courteous, "Have a wonderful flight, Mr. Thompson." Marcus felt a churn of injustice in the pit of his stomach. So there had been an opening after all, for the right person, apparently, and that person had not been him. He took a step forward, mustering his calm voice. "Excuse me, Ms. Nash." He read her name tag. "You told me there were no seats available, but you just sold a seat to him. I don't mind paying for an upgrade if that's what it takes." Cheryl's face instantly reverted to exasperation. That was the last seat. It was reserved for high-tier members. "You don't have that membership, do you?" Marcus shook his head, frustration creeping into his voice. "No, but I wasn't even given the chance. I can pay. I'm not looking for freebies, just fairness." She glared at him, her stress culminating in open hostility. "Sir, I've asked you to step aside. This is standard airline policy. We can't help you. If you keep interfering with our boarding process, we're going to have a problem." The color rose in Marcus's cheeks. "I'm not trying to cause a problem. I'm just asking for." Cheryl's voice burst out in a sharp bark. "That's it." Security passengers in the boarding area twisted around, startled. Marcus froze in disbelief. In that split second, he realized her simmering stress had reached a breaking point, and somehow he had become her outlet. "Wait," he said. "There's no need for that. I'm calm. I just—" Her glare hardened. Security now, two airport police officers approached. One was older, perhaps in his 50s, the other younger. Their expressions were neutral, but they had their guards up. The older officer looked from Cheryl to Marcus, measuring the tension. Cheryl pointed at Marcus. This man is interfering with the boarding process and causing a disturbance. We need him removed. Now. Marcus tried to steady his breathing. He felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. All eyes in the waiting area were on him, the tall black man singled out by a frantic gate agent. The older officer stepped forward, hands slightly raised in a calming gesture. "Sir, what seems to be the problem here?" Marcus swallowed. "There's no problem. I'm just trying to see if there's a seat available on this flight. She told me there wasn't, but she just gave an upgrade to someone else. I asked politely about it. Now she's calling you." Cheryl's voice rose through a tremor of uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "He was harassing me, kept insisting I give him a seat that we don't have. He wouldn't step aside. He's holding up the flight." Marcus exhaled, trying to control the anger building inside. "I promise you, officer, I'm not harassing anyone. I was simply advocating for my ticket." The officer turned to Cheryl. "Ma'am, was he making threats or being physically aggressive?" Cheryl hesitated, conscious of the watchful crowd. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She wanted to say something incriminating, but she didn't quite have the nerve to lie outright. Instead, she settled on a half-truth. "He wouldn't leave me alone. I felt unsafe." Marcus's jaw tightened. This was an all-too-common storyline. A black man labeled as a threat, a woman claiming to feel unsafe. He fought back the urge to lash out verbally, suspecting it would only compound the situation. The older officer sighed, turning his gaze back to Marcus. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. Let's talk this out somewhere else." Marcus saw the entire gate area freeze in an uncomfortable hush. People shifted in their seats, some outraged on his behalf, others anxious for the flight to depart without further delay. Marcus considered refusing, but he knew that resisting law enforcement in an airport was a losing game. He nodded. "Fine. I'll come," he said. He turned to Cheryl, forcing a polite tone. "I don't think this is necessary." But Cheryl cut him off, her face unyielding. "Just get him out of here. We need to depart." The younger officer stepped forward, escorting Marcus away from the gate. The older officer stayed behind for a moment to confirm details with Cheryl. A flicker of satisfaction crossed her face, quickly replaced by a stern expression as she realized the stares of disapproval from several travelers. But to her, she had done what she needed to do. She was following procedure, or so she convinced herself. Marcus was led to a quieter corner near a closed food kiosk. The younger officer kept looking at him with curiosity, as though expecting an outburst. Marcus simply placed his carry-on down, crossing his arms. The older officer joined them. "Sir, do you have identification on you?" "Yes." Marcus handed over his driver's license. The officer scrutinized it carefully. "Marcus Walker from California, correct?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, officer. Here's my boarding pass, too." He handed over the paper pass he had printed at check-in. The officer eyed it. Marcus mustered a composed tone. "I honestly did nothing wrong. That gate agent got upset when I asked about an upgrade she just gave another passenger. I was never aggressive. People around me can confirm that." The older officer sighed. "Look, we're not going to arrest you. There's no sign you broke any law or threatened her, but the airline has the right to refuse service if they feel threatened or if they say you're causing a disturbance. Sometimes that's that." Marcus felt his shoulders slump in defeat. "So that's it. I lose my flight because she felt threatened. I have to wait until tomorrow or whenever they can rebook me." The younger officer shrugged. "If they won't let you fly, that's out of our hands. This is more a customer service issue than a police matter now. But they did call us to remove you from the gate area, so we'll have to see if the airline manager is willing to accommodate you or not." Marcus closed his eyes, exhaling. His phone was about to die, but he had an idea. He clicked it on, navigating quickly to his contacts. He found the number he rarely called because he rarely needed to. The name read Sarah Walker. Underneath his phone's notes indicated sister, CEO, Skylux Airlines. Yes, Sarah Walker was the newly appointed CEO of Skylux, an underdog airline that was aggressively trying to expand its market share. But the entire fiasco at Gate A32 had been orchestrated by a single overworked gate agent who had no idea that the polite, unassuming passenger she had just dismissed was the brother of her ultimate boss. He tapped the call button, but the phone beeped the dreaded low battery chime. He prayed it would last. The line rang once, twice, then the call was answered. A crisp, familiar voice came on. "Hey, big brother, I've been waiting to hear from you." She sounded cheerful, possibly oblivious to the seriousness of the situation. Marcus spoke quickly, words tumbling out in a rush. "Sarah, I'm at Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, trying to catch Flight 729 to San Francisco. Your gate agent, Cheryl Nash, just called the cops on me because I questioned why she gave someone else an upgrade while refusing to even let me see if I could buy one." His sister's voice turned sharply serious. "What called the cops? Are you all right?" "I'm fine. They're not arresting me, but I'm apparently not allowed to board because she claims I was harassing her." Sarah's tone crackled with intensity. "Stay right there. I'll handle this. I'm calling the station manager right now. Do not hang up." Marcus heard her line go silent as she presumably placed him on hold. The older officer raised an eyebrow, obviously hearing Marcus mention CEO. The younger officer's posture stiffened as though picking up on an undercurrent in the conversation. Moments later, Sarah's voice returned firm and resolute. "Marcus, don't worry. Someone is coming to you right now. If you can please hand the phone to the officer so I can let them know everything's fine." Marcus offered the phone to the older officer. "My sister wants to speak with you." The officer frowned, but accepted the phone. "Hello?" He paused. A sudden shift in his expression revealed that he was talking to someone with real authority. "Yes, ma'am. Understood. We'll remain with him." "All right. No, he's not detained." "Yes, ma'am." He handed the phone back to Marcus. Marcus ended the call, noticing the phone battery icon vanish completely. The screen went black. He was effectively unreachable now, but that brief conversation was enough. He felt a small wave of relief, yet also an odd apprehension. He didn't want to see his sister's position used to get a gate agent in trouble, but at the same time, he was reeling from the humiliation and frustration. He silently thanked his lucky stars that she'd answered in time. Otherwise, who knows what might have transpired. Within minutes, a tall woman in a crisp Skylux uniform arrived, flanked by another airline staff member. Her name tag read, Lillian Brooks, Station Manager. Her brow was knotted as she hurried toward Marcus and the officers. "You must be Mr. Walker," Lillian said, eyes darting to the officers for a moment. "I'm so sorry about this. Can you please come with me to my office so we can rectify this situation immediately?" Marcus nodded, picking up his carry-on. The officers asked if they were still needed. Lillian politely told them, "I believe we have it handled, officers. Thank you for your assistance." The older officer tipped his head. "We'll be on our way then. Have a good day." His eyes lingered on Marcus for a second, as though silently conveying that he sympathized with the fiasco. Then they turned and left. Lillian escorted Marcus through the corridor. Overhead, a final boarding announcement for Flight 729 echoed, telling any remaining passengers that the doors would close in 5 minutes. Marcus felt a pang. Would he be left behind? In Lillian's office, an air-conditioned cubicle in the administrative wing, she sat him down in front of a battered desk. The second staff member lingered behind her. Lillian offered a weary but genuine smile. "Mr. Walker again, I'm deeply sorry. We had no idea who you were or that Ms. Nash was going to involve the police. Frankly, it shouldn't matter who you are. No passenger should be treated with hostility. But Ms. Walker, your sister called me. She's absolutely livid. She demanded we correct this immediately." Marcus cleared his throat. "I appreciate your help, Ms. Brooks. I don't want to make a scene, but I feel singled out." She gave an upgrade to another passenger who just walked up and asked, and when I asked for the same opportunity, she called security. Lillian's jaw flexed. That's unacceptable. The last thing we need is a discrimination lawsuit or negative press, especially if it involves someone close to our new CEO. I'll be frank, Miss Nash was out of line. Now let's get you on a flight. We still have a moment before they close the aircraft door for Flight 729. Let me see if we can hold it a little longer. She picked up the desk phone and dialed, speaking quietly. The second staff member typed rapidly on a tablet. Lillian paused, then nodded. "Yes, we can do it, but we'll have to hurry." She turned to Marcus. "We can board you. There's one seat left." In first class, Mr. Thompson apparently never actually completed his transaction. His card was declined. "That seat is wide open." Marcus blinked, trying not to let bitterness creep in. So the man who had been readily upgraded didn't even pay successfully. All that drama for nothing. "Thank you," he managed. She stood hurriedly gathering papers. "Let's go. I'll walk you there personally." Lillian led Marcus back to gate A32. By now, the waiting area was nearly empty, except for a handful of straggling passengers. The flight attendants were preparing to close the doors. Cheryl stood by the jet bridge, finishing up some final checks. When she noticed Lillian approaching with Marcus, her face went pale. She seemed stunned, likely having realized something was amiss. Station managers didn't just escort random passengers onto flights without cause. Ms. Nash, Lillian said coldly, "Please reopen the passenger manifest. We have a first-class seat to assign to Mr. Walker." Cheryl looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. But he was removed. I thought Lillian's voice turned frostier. "You were mistaken. Mr. Walker is free to board. Is there a problem with that?" Cheryl swallowed, her eyes flicking to Marcus in shock, perhaps beginning to suspect his connection. She forced a thin smile that radiated more fear than warmth. "No, ma'am. Let me just… okay, seat 2A is open." Lillian nodded. "Very good. Final boarding for Mr. Walker, seat 2A." She handed Marcus a fresh boarding pass. "Have a safe flight, Mr. Walker. We apologize again on behalf of Skylux." Marcus took the boarding pass, a tumult of emotions rushing through him. Relief, anger, vindication, and a tinge of guilt that the entire fiasco had escalated so much. He nodded politely to Lillian. Then he walked down the jet bridge. As he passed Cheryl, her face reddened. He paused momentarily, wanting to say something that might diffuse the tension, but he found no words that felt genuine or appropriate. She had humiliated him, called the cops on him, and now she stood there cornered by her own actions. He spoke softly, voice trembling. "I hope you learn from this." He gave her one last glance, then continued on to the aircraft. Marcus sank into the seat 2A, a plush leather seat that felt like a throne compared to the cramped economy rows. The flight attendant offered him a choice of beverage. He chose water, needing to rehydrate after the stressful ordeal. He tried to calm his nerves, but the adrenaline lingered in his bloodstream. Passengers in nearby first-class seats cast curious glances. They must have sensed some commotion. The thought flickered in Marcus's mind. Did everyone already know who he was? Or did they just see him as another traveler? As the plane taxied away from the gate, he closed his eyes, leaning back in the seat. But his calm didn't last long. Just after takeoff, as the plane reached cruising altitude, a flight attendant approached him quietly. "Sir, I have a message for you from Miss Sarah Walker. She'd like to speak with you if possible. We have an in-flight phone." She managed to patch a call from the ground. "Is it all right if we connect you?" Marcus's heartbeat quickened. "Yes, please." Moments later, he was on a phone that was plugged into a console near his seat, wincing at the faint static in the line. But then his sister's voice came through. "Marcus, are you okay? Did you board?" He nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "Yes, I'm in first class, ironically. Thanks to the station manager." Sarah exhaled audibly. "I'm glad you're on the flight. Listen, I'm really sorry this happened. I'm planning to do a deep review of all the logs, the footage from the gate area, and the staff statements. Ms. Nash's behavior is unacceptable." Marcus rubbed his temples, still battling a headache. "Sarah, I don't want to see someone fired necessarily. I just want it understood that what happened wasn't right. The cops were called on me over a seat question. I felt singled out." Sarah's voice wavered with empathy. "I hear you. Unfortunately, these sorts of incidents happen too often to people who look like us. It hits close to home for me. I'll handle it professionally, but we will not let this go unaddressed. Rest. Take care. I'm sorry again." Marcus blinked back tears of frustration. "Thanks, sis." He hung up, noticing other first-class travelers discreetly watching. Marcus forced a polite smile at them, then gazed out the window, letting the roar of the jet engines envelop him. While that might have been the end of the incident for Marcus, fate had more twists in store for Cheryl and even for Marcus by the time the plane landed. Back at gate A32 after Flight 729 pushed back, Lillian Brooks turned to Cheryl Nash. Behind them, the cleaning crew swept the waiting area. A handful of airline staff gathered around, sensing something significant was about to happen. Lillian wasted no time. "Cheryl, come with me. We need to talk. Now." Cheryl gulped. She tried to muster a casual tone. "Ms. Brooks, I was just following procedure. That passenger was interfering with boarding." Lillian cut her off. "Stop. We've already reviewed some of the security footage. The passenger was not interfering. He was simply asking about an upgrade. You escalated the situation by threatening to call security. That's unacceptable in our policy. I've also spoken to the officers who responded. They said he was calm." Cheryl's eyes watered, a mix of fear and anger. "He kept pressing me. I felt threatened." Lillian arched an eyebrow. "We saw the footage. There was no aggression on his part. He was standing behind the rope barrier, speaking calmly. You said, and I quote, 'Get him out of here now.' That's not appropriate unless someone is actually violent or disruptive." Cheryl stuttered, trying to find a defense. But she realized she had little. Stress and prejudice had fueled her actions. Lillian's voice grew solemn. "Let's be clear. The passenger you humiliated was Marcus Walker. Does that name ring a bell? He's the CEO's brother." Cheryl's face went blank. Her heart pounded so loud she could swear the entire terminal heard it. "The new CEO, Sarah Walker." Lillian nodded stiffly. "Yes, Ms. Walker's brother. But even if he weren't related to our CEO, your behavior was unacceptable. This is not how Skylux expects employees to handle conflict." Cheryl felt the weight of her entire career teetering on a precipice. "Please, I have a family. I need this job." Lillian inhaled. "I understand that. But you also had a choice not to escalate. I have a meeting with HR tomorrow. We'll decide on the formal disciplinary steps." Cheryl's eyes brimmed with tears. She tried to apologize, but the words stuck in her throat. She numbly followed Lillian to the administrative office, replaying every moment in her head, wishing she had done things differently. Flight 729 touched down in San Francisco late that evening. Marcus stepped off the plane into the cool Bay Area air. He felt the usual comfort of home wash over him, but the day's events still clung to him like a stale odor. He turned his phone on only to remember the battery had died. Nearby, a phone charging station beckoned. He plugged in, waiting a minute or two until the device had enough juice to power on. Instantly, dozens of notifications cascaded onto the screen. Texts from friends, colleagues, and his sister. Missed calls, voicemails, news alerts. He wondered if someone had already leaked the incident to social media or the press. Among the messages was one from Sarah. "I'll be in San Francisco tomorrow morning. Let's meet." He typed back with relief, "Sure, let me know where." Then, phone in hand, he made his way to the baggage carousel. He had to wait for the next day's flight for his checked luggage, apparently because of the chaos in Atlanta. But at least he was home. The next morning, Marcus drove to Skylux's local corporate office in downtown San Francisco. Sarah was in a meeting, but her assistant ushered him into a private lounge. After about 15 minutes, Sarah emerged, her slender frame wrapped in an elegant suit. The siblings embraced. "I'm so sorry, Marcus," she said, stepping back to look him in the eyes. "I had a conference call with the executive team this morning. We reviewed the gate footage and the accounts from the police officers. Everyone is on the same page. This was an unjustified escalation." Marcus nodded, forcing a faint smile. "I appreciate your support. How's it going over there?" Sarah exhaled. "It's a whirlwind. We're opening a formal investigation. I'm pushing for better training and zero tolerance for discriminatory behavior. But I also have to tread carefully. We can't appear to be giving special treatment just because it happened to my brother. That can invite a whole separate can of worms." Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I understand. I'm not looking for vengeance. I just want it addressed so no one else has to deal with that kind of treatment." Sarah's eyes glinted with resolve. "Trust me, it will be addressed. And for the record, you might get a formal apology from the airline. Maybe some compensation." Marcus shrugged. "An apology would be nice. Compensation isn't my main concern, but I'll let them do whatever they feel is right." Sarah nodded. "You're a better person than me. I'd be furious." They spent the next hour chatting about family, work, and old memories, moments like the time Sarah had saved Marcus from a school bully, or the time he had taught her how to drive. The tension gradually subsided, replaced by a renewed closeness. 2 days later, Marcus was working from his home office when he received a call from Lillian Brooks. She sounded more relaxed than before. "Mr. Walker, I wanted to inform you that the airline has concluded its investigation regarding Ms. Cheryl Nash," Lillian said. "Her behavior at Gate A32 was found to be in direct violation of our employee conduct policies. This isn't her first complaint of this nature. However, calling security on a passenger without just cause is extremely serious. She's being terminated effective immediately." Marcus felt a wave of conflicting emotions. He'd never wish unemployment on anyone, especially someone with a family. Yet he couldn't deny that her actions could have ended very badly for him. It was only because of Sarah's intervention that he hadn't been arrested or further humiliated. He sighed. "I'm sorry to hear that it came to that. I hope she can learn from this." Lillian continued, "We're also extending an official apology along with a $2,000 travel voucher and an upgrade on your next international flight, should you choose to fly Skylux." Marcus thanked her, the apology soothing some of the rawness of the wound. But in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake how quickly things had escalated simply because of someone's prejudice, stress, or both. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Cheryl was packing up her desk, tears staining her cheeks. Her co-workers offered hushed farewells, a mix of pity and disapproval in their eyes. She was about to exit the airport lounge for the last time as an employee. Her supervisor approached, handing her some final paperwork. "We're sorry, Cheryl. This was out of my hands." HQ got involved directly, and with the new CEO on the line, well, there was no wiggle room. Cheryl clenched her jaw, shoulders trembling. She wanted to scream, to justify herself, but deep down, she recognized that she had let her frustrations and biases control her. She had pressed the nuclear button over a seat upgrade dispute, and now she was paying the price. A few weeks later, life had mostly returned to normal for Marcus. He was focusing on his startup, which was gaining traction after a successful pitch to investors. He'd nearly put the incident behind him, but karma, or fate, had a funny way of tying threads together. One morning, while picking up a coffee at a cafe in downtown Atlanta, he was visiting for another meeting. He saw someone sitting alone at a corner table. Her face looked familiar, drawn sad but unmistakable. It was Cheryl Nash. She appeared anxious with a resume and some business cards in front of her. A large envelope, reading job applications, peeked from her tote bag. Marcus felt his heart flutter. Part of him wanted to walk away, not wanting to stir any drama. But another part of him remembered the final words he had said to her, "I hope you learn from this." Summoning courage, Marcus approached. She looked up, eyes widening. Her mouth opened, but no sound emerged. It was a tense moment. Both recognized each other instantly. "Cheryl," he said softly, "I didn't expect to see you." She seemed unsure if she should stand apologize or run away. She just stared, guilt etched into her features. Finally, she managed a halting whisper. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. I never meant for things to go that far. My life, it was stressful, and that's not an excuse. I'm sorry." Marcus sank into the chair across from her. "I appreciate that. I'm sorry for how things ended for you. I heard you lost your job." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "I did. It's been hell. I can't even get a reference from them, and the rumor has spread. Who wants to hire a gate agent who calls the cops on a passenger for no real reason?" Marcus's chest tightened. He remembered feeling humiliated, powerless, singled out. Yet seeing her so broken, a wave of empathy he didn't expect coursed through him. "Listen, I'm not here to gloat. It was a terrible day. But if you truly mean you're sorry, I accept your apology." Cheryl let out a shaky breath. "Thank you. That means more than I can say." He nodded, feeling the awkwardness. "Life is tough. We all make mistakes. You have to own them. I hope you can find a new path. Something better." Her voice quivered. "I've learned a lot from this. I need to treat people better, no matter how stressed I am. I guess I realized that the moment I saw the police leading you away, your face. You looked so hurt and shocked." Marcus gazed at her for a long moment. "We can't change the past, but we can grow from it." He left her with that. Though the conversation was brief, it felt like a necessary coda to the incident. As he walked away, he felt strangely lighter. In a world teetering on cynicism, maybe empathy still had a place. A month later, Sarah Walker stood before a podium in a small conference room at Skylux's headquarters. She was announcing a new training initiative aimed at all frontline employees, emphasizing diversity, equity, and conflict de-escalation. A cluster of journalists and cameras lined the back wall. "It is our priority to ensure every passenger is treated with dignity and respect," Sarah said firmly. "We are implementing mandatory training modules, and we're creating clear procedures for gate agents and staff on how to handle disputes calmly and fairly." This is part of our commitment to making Skylux not only competitive in the airline industry, but also a leader in inclusive customer service. Marcus watched from the side, invited by his sister, to witness the unveiling of the new program. He smiled, proud of her. The fiasco in Atlanta had turned into a catalyst for change. Sometimes it took a jarring event to illuminate a flawed system. After Sarah stepped off the podium, she embraced Marcus. "Thanks for being here, bro. You helped us do something important." He chuckled. "I'd rather have avoided the fiasco, but I'm proud of you, Sarah. You're doing great work." Within the next few weeks, social media lit up with praise for Skylux's policy revamp. There were also critics who said it was a PR stunt. But behind the scenes, the airline's staff underwent thorough training sessions and role-playing exercises that hammered home the consequences of discrimination and rash decisions. Marcus returned to his entrepreneurial hustle, forging partnerships and traveling frequently. Though the memory of that day at Gate A32 never fully disappeared, it no longer dominated his emotions. He had faced adversity. He had survived. More importantly, real change had emerged from the conflict. For Cheryl, life was harder. She found part-time work at a local courier service, doing administrative tasks while looking for a more stable position. Every so often she'd remember how she had gotten there, her impulsive act that led to her downfall. Yet she clung to the memory of Marcus's parting words in the cafe. In her darkest moments, that glimmer of understanding propelled her to keep pushing forward, searching for a chance to redeem herself. For Sarah, her focus expanded beyond the daily grind of airline leadership. She vowed to champion programs that supported underrepresented communities in the aviation industry. Internally, she mentored employees, urging them to stay open-minded, kind, and firm in fairness. She used every resource at her disposal to root out toxic behavior, determined that no one else would have to experience the humiliation her brother had endured. Over time, the incident settled into a cautionary tale within Skylux, shared during training sessions, whispered about among new hires. Don't be like the Gate A32 fiasco, they'd joke. But beneath the jokes lay a sobering truth. A single reckless moment could ruin careers and tarnish a company's reputation and inflict undue harm on a passenger who deserved far better. Several months passed. Marcus's startup clinched a major contract. He found himself once again at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, this time with a confirmed first-class seat courtesy of an upgrade voucher. The déjà vu struck him as he stood in line, but the gate agent today was a friendly, middle-aged man, greeting travelers with kindness. Marcus's phone vibrated. It was a text from Sarah. "Proud of you, bro. Keep soaring high." He smiled, texting back, "You too, sis. Give 'em heaven over there." As he waited, an older couple fumbled with their boarding passes. They looked anxious. Marcus stepped forward to help them with the scanning process, offering a reassuring smile. The gate agent thanked him. The couple thanked him. It was a small, fleeting moment of compassion in an airport full of hustle, but to Marcus, it signified healing, a sign that empathy could thrive even here in the chaotic swirl of modern travel. He boarded the plane peacefully. No drama, no tension. This time, he felt like a valued passenger. As the aircraft roared into the sky, he allowed himself a final reflection on that fateful day. The best stories, he realized, are the ones that lead to change. And sometimes, a single phone call from a gate agent to the cops, from a brother to his sister, can make all the difference in the world. That day, one gate agent's rash decision had set off a chain reaction. culminating in corporate reform, personal growth, and unexpected acts of redemption. It was a harsh lesson, but also a powerful reminder that in every moment of crisis, seeds of transformation are sown. Now, as the plane climbed through the clouds, Marcus closed his eyes and took a slow, grateful breath. He was safe, he was strong, and he was free proof that even when the sky seems full of storms, you can still break through to sunshine on the other side. Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of a journey where a simple seat dispute ignited tensions, police were called, and one phone call to the CEO changed everything. It's a story that reminds us how our actions can spiral out of control in the blink of an eye, and also how compassion, accountability, and second chances can pave the way forward. If you found yourself glued to the screen, curious for each new twist, then I invite you to be part of our community of storytellers. If you enjoyed this tale or learned something from it, take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue creating dramatic, inspiring stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, a single moment of kindness can change someone's life forever. Stay safe, and see you next time.